Welcome to Tuesday Night Baseball, T-Mobile Tuesday Night Baseball in downtown Cincinnati. It is a beautiful night, and the Reds set to begin their first extended homestand in this young 2014 season. It starts with the first of three against a team with the best record in the National League, the San Francisco Giants. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds Baseball right here on Fox Sports Ohio. And a good pitching matchup here in Game 1. Homer Bailey against Tim Lincecum, a couple of guys you may remember last year that threw no-hitters within 2 weeks apart.
You're right, and of course it was Homer Bailey that threw a no-hitter against this San Francisco Giant team. And by the way, it was Tim Lincecum on the mound. But you can see that Homer Bailey, so far this year, after he celebrated last year, he's a guy that has really decided that this year got a 5-year contract, came back, and is the kind of pitcher that the Reds expect to be going good. Now, Tim Lincecum is not quite the pitcher that he has been against other teams that he has been against the Reds. He's 0-3 against the Reds, lifetime earned run average above 8. He seems to wilt in the humidity of the Midwest. Against other teams, he's a Cy Young Award winner, and he's a guy that you're not really sure what you're going to get out of him tonight. If he's on his game, it'll be a very tough challenge for this Reds team.
Now, we've heard so much about sabermetrics in recent years, and this Giants team is going against the grain in many of the categories that you would think would make them successful. They don't hit for average much. They're not great on on-base percentage, but they hit when it counts.
Well, clutch is what they're all about this year. The Giants are. They're getting a lot of runs with 2 outs. Runners in scoring position. Batting average is pushing 300. That is unbelievable. Look at the number of 2-out runs that they have scored compared to the Reds. 119 for the Giants, only 75 for the Reds. That is keeping innings alive, getting clutch hits when you need them, and that's why they are right now the team with the best record in all of baseball.
All righty, we're set to go in Game 1, but when we return, the numbers say so. Jim Day has that story. You're watching Reds Baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
rights. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
The boys are back in town. Warm and humid tonight, without question. A spotty thunderstorm possible until about 8 o'clock. No guarantee that one's going to occur. Very spotty across the area. 81 first pitch, dropping down to about 75, and skies becoming mostly clear. Warm and humid is important because the air molecules aren't not as tightly packed as with a cool and dry air mass.
Tim, thank you very much. I'm Jim Day on the field just outside of the Reds dugout. Reds and Giants very familiar with each other, especially a couple years ago when the Giants rallied from an 0-2 deficit, won 3 straight here at Great American Ballpark. But during the regular season at GABP, check out our T-Mobile Game Changer. The Reds have been dominant in the regular season, last 11 regular season games at Great American, 10 wins compared to 1 loss, and you go down the list: runs per game, team average, starters ERA, bullpen average, all dominant numbers for the Reds. Can it continue? Well, we'll find out together as Homer Bailey and Tim Lincecum go to the hill. Reds looking for a giant takedown. It's the first of 3 with San Francisco. Tom and Chris are next on Fox Sports Ohio.
Anything different than against most teams, but you know, the past couple games against these guys, he's had his best stuff. You know, he was able to go out there and really run it up there and gain velocity throughout the game, and he's had his good slider as well. So
Fox Sports Ohio brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By AT&T, mobilizing your world. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good. It's Skyline time. Beautiful night for baseball here in downtown Cincinnati, where the Reds have taken the field, ready to entertain the Giants, who come in 37 up, 20 down under manager Bruce Bochy. And let's take a look at their lineup presented by Meijer. Pagod in center, Hunter Pence in right, Buster Posey tonight at first base. A red-hot Pablo Sandoval down at third, Michael Morrison left, with Hector Sanchez doing the catching. A ladder third of Brandon Crawford, Joaquin Arias, and Tim Lincecum on the mound. Homer Bailey last season threw a no-hitter against this Giants team. We asked his catcher, Devin Mesoraco, does that make this a good matchup for Homer Bailey?
I wouldn't say the matchup is really anything different than against most teams, but you know, the past couple games against these guys, he's had his best stuff. You know, he was able to go out there and really run it up there and gain velocity throughout the game, and he's had his good slider as well. So hopefully that continues today, and he can go out there and do what he can do.
Well, Homer Bailey on the mound looking for win number 6 on the year. He is 5-3 right now. That earned run average still just hovering a little bit over 5.0. But in his 11 starts, he has had 6 quality starts. In a really big game he pitched last time out, that was against the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, where the Reds had lost the first 2 of the series, and they really needed that 3rd game. He was matched up against fellow Texan Clayton Kershaw, and he beat Kershaw with a 6-inning effort. So it was a good effort for Homer Bailey last time. They're looking for him again to do what he usually does against the San Francisco Giants, which is get on top and stay on top.
Bailey, a 1-2 record in April with an ERA north of 6. Went 4-1 thanks to a lot of run support with an ERA of over 4 in May. So now he gets the ball for the first time in the month of June. Angel Pagan digging in. And the first pitch is a strike, and this one underway. Angel Hernandez calls the balls and strikes. Adrian Johnson down at first. Gabe Morales, the umpire, at second. And Larry Vanover, the crew chief, the umpire, at third. Pagan having an outstanding year. Healthy again after missing so much time last season. And this one in the air to Brandon Phillips, and that's the way we begin the game. Speaking of defense, let's take a look at the Reds, brought to you by your Ford dealers. Schumaker again, the nod and left. Hamilton back in the lineup. That's good news. Jay Bruce back in the lineup as well. That's good news. The regular group along the infield, and Mesoraco hanging his signs for Homer Bailey. (37-20) the record for these Giants. They have already built a 7-game lead in the National League's Western Division over the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hunter Pence, first pitch swinging, down a strike. Pence got off to a terrible start, was hitting in the 100s in April. And then they moved him into that number 2 hole, and he has taken off. Has the numbers up to 284, 7 home runs, 21 runs batted in. And since going to the 2 hole, his on base percentage is up over 380, and that ball is smoked into left. 1-0 Giants.
Hunter Pence is known in scouting circles as a bad ball hitter, meaning you don't necessarily have to throw him strikes to get him to swing. He chases this pitch up and out of the strike zone, and he just tomahawks that ball. I mean, he tells himself he's looking for a certain pitch, and he's up there to hack. And it doesn't matter if it's in the dirt or over in his eyes. We've seen him hit both of those type pitches out of the ballpark, and he goes deep on a high heater there.
So 1-0 Giants. So forget all about it. Another no-hitter. Forget all about a shutout. And now Bailey will just settle in and turn his attention to Buster Posey, who's behind 0-1. Posey missed 3 games over the weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals, suffering from a bad back. And he has not been nearly the same player going back to the All-Star break of last season than he had been in the couple of years since coming into the major leagues. Numbers are way down for Buster Posey.
But, you know, even though this is the 6th major league season for Buster Posey, he has only had 2 complete years where he played a full season without being injured. He did it last year and he did it the year before. And in both those years, he had excellent offensive numbers, a leader behind the plate, a key middle bat in the order.
1-2 to Posey, and a roller foul.
And they're concerned about his back, as you said, Tom, and that's one reason why they still need him in the lineup. They want him to play as much as possible, and that's why he's at first base. Brandon Belt, their normal first baseman, is out with a thumb injury. They expect him back in a matter of weeks. But in the meantime, they'll fill in, and Posey will get a chance to play down there.
Gone swinging Posey, and 2 are out in the inning.
Get ahead of him with fastballs, then drop the slider on him, and that's what Homer does right there. Homer really throws 4 different pitches. Fastball, mostly 4-seamers, but he'll run a 2-seamer in there too. A slider that he'll use about 20% of the time, and then a split finger pitch and a curveball.
Well, the Posey's not hot. Here's one guy who is hot, and that is Pablo Sandoval. A 12-game hitting streak in which he's hit nearly .390. Pulled on a slow breaking ball there, and over the 12 games he has 5 bombs and 14 runs batted in.
Right, he's trying to put a little push on, Pablo is. Of course, this is his contract year. It's always interesting to see the kind of numbers a guy puts up when he knows he's going to be a free agent.
And what kind of condition they show up in. That has been you know, the #1 topic for Giants fans going back to when he had that unbelievable postseason in 2010. Started to put on some weight, and apparently a number of his teammates, Hunter Pence, Matt Cain, just to name a couple, confronted him directly about coming back in 2014 in much better shape. He's lost more than 30 pounds.
Well, this guy's never going to fit into a medium shirt, but I can tell you that they do want him to be able to be light enough to be able to play. He's never going to be all that mobile. He's a corner infielder. He's going to cover the balls and get to him rather than what he gets to, but he can hit. There's no doubt about that.
In the air down to third base line and foul ground, and Frazier with room to end the inning. But Ponce making noise with a solo home run. And now Tim Lincecum will get the ball with a 1-0 lead. Look at Brian Price's starting lineup presented by Meijer. Billy Hamilton did not play on Sunday with an injured elbow. He's back in there. Todd Frazier third. Brandon at second base hitting third. Jay Bruce, Devin Mesoraco, the red hot Brian Pena in the middle. And a ladder third of Skip Schumaker, Zach Cozart, and Homer Bailey.
Well, the young man that is known as the Freak or Big Time Timmy Jim, Tim Lincecum on the mound, 12th start of the year, 4-3 record, earned run average a little bit over 4. He's a guy that really has not logged all that many innings, given the fact that he has 11 starts. He's only taken the Giants into the 8th inning one time this year. Main reason for that is control problems, especially lately. He has walked 17 batters in the last 24 innings, so it'll be interesting to see the strategy the Reds employ against Lincecum, who's having a hard time finding the strike zone.
Billy Hamilton at 251, a home run and 10 runs batted in. Shows bunt and looks at a strike. We're talking about some of the numbers and all the strikeouts the Reds have had recently, and not only the high strikeout total, but infrequently, if ever, walking anymore. Their last 10 games, they have only drawn a total of 9 walks while striking out 100 times. And Lincecum, a guy who will walk you. But ahead of Hamilton quickly, 0-2. Fouled away, still a ball and 2 strikes on Billy Hamilton. Well, if you're just settling in and joining us, Hunter Pence with a home run, the second batter of the game. And the Giants out to the 1-0 lead. Scary numbers for the Giants when they score first. An unbelievable record of 28-5 in games which they draw first blood. 1-2 the count on Hamilton.
You know, that's an interesting number, Tom, and it shows one of 2 things. Either number one, the number that they put on to get the lead in the first place is probably more than just 1 run. And that combined with the fact that they probably add on starting right away. Not a team that puts a run up the board and then expect that to hold up all night long.
2-2 on Billy Hamilton. The only team in Major League Baseball with a better record than these Giants happens to be right across the bay in Oakland. 35-22. 614 winning percentage. Actually, with their work over the weekend, they went right by the A's, and that one's shot down the left field line, and Hamilton motoring into second base. Doesn't even need to slide with a leadoff double.
Well, the worst nightmare come true for an opposing pitcher when you come after Billy Hamilton and he does something like this. You think you get the fastball right by him, and he gets that bat end very tight to his waist and is able just to be able to barely hit that ball into left field. In fact, it was the only pitch actually that was a true strike. Maybe one of those on the outside corner would call strikes, but when he gets on base, things can get going.
Hamilton has 20 stolen bases, has been thrown out 6 times. And now Todd Frazier takes ball 1. Now, what about this combination, if you're thinking about running, Chris, of Lincecum and Hector Sanchez?
Well, take the Sanchez part out of it because it's all about Lincecum. I mean, you can just tell by his delivery. Very slow and deliberate. He's got a big high leg kick, long to the plate. He gives up a lot of stolen bases.
Oh, boy. And the throw is into center field, and Hamilton's going to score the tying run. How about that? I mean, he was hung out there in no man's land, and then Lincecum throws it in the dirt on an easy pickoff.
Well, they had him dead to right out there. They're looking out there, and you see the second baseman, Arias. He's sneaking in there. And the old inside move, and had Tim Lincecum simply delivered the ball 60 feet waist high to the second baseman. Billy Hamilton probably would have been out instead of rounding third here and scoring the Reds' first run of the game.
All right, a 1-1 contest, and now Frazier takes a strike. Man, oh man, the impact of that kind of speed.
You know, as soon as that ball went into center field, Bruce Bochy in the Giants dugout took his hat, fired it into the floor, just shook his head in disgust because they're thinking, hey, the same thing you are. We got the fastest guy in baseball out there. We've just picked him off. But we can't execute an easy play that you expect your middle schoolers to be able to do.
Well, it has scored a stolen base for Hamilton and then a throwing error, which allows him to advance third to home. So Hamilton out 21 stolen bases, and Frazier showing some patience up there. 3 balls and a strike with Brandon Phillips on deck. 1-1 game, inning number 1. And a walk. How about that? Let's take a look at the Giants on defense, presented by your Ford dealers. Michael Moore's been moving around. What an offseason pickup he has become for these Giants. Pagan and Pence in center and right. Crawford, an outstanding defender at shortstop. Arias getting the start at second, and Posey from behind the plate over to first. I mean, they just picked up Morse to try to improve this offense, and he has 11 home runs and 38 runs batted in. Now Brandon Phillips. Of course, you got to keep an eye on Frazier, and Lincecum will. Frazier has 4 stolen bases.
Well, I said that Lincecum gives up stolen bases. Here are the numbers lifetime. He has given up 151 successful stolen bases and only 34 thrown out. So Brandon ought to be looking for a fastball here if they think that Frazier might be a prospect to go.
Boy, it sure is nice to be back on the home front, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, the Reds have been on the road so much. They had that road trip through Washington and Philadelphia. They come home for 3 games. Turn around and leave again for 7. 3 in L.A., 4 in Arizona, where they won the final 3 games there in Phoenix. And now a 10-game homestand. 3 against the Giants, followed by 3 against Philadelphia over the weekend, and then a 4-gamer beginning Monday with the Dodgers coming in. And 2 on Brandon Phillips, and again they'll throw over, sending Frazier back to the bag. Well, if you can't tell already, Lincecum, if he's not the most deliberate pitcher in the National League, he's not far behind whoever might be number 1. Our telecast is on AFN tonight, the American Forces Network, broadcasting to the U.S. Armed Forces serving in 175 countries and aboard ships at sea. They're watching around the world in Iraq, Germany, Italy, Southwest Asia, South Korea, Japan. We cannot thank all of you enough for your service, representing and fighting and standing tall for the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. And what a beautiful email we received from a young man, huge Reds fan, Michael W. George, Petty Officer 2nd Class, Nav Sub Fleet Logistics Center, out of Yokosuka, Japan, with the U.S. Navy. Cannot wait to come home and go to a Reds game. Chris, he loves watching the Reds whenever he can. So we thank you.
And we will make sure you get to a Reds game.
You can book that. And if he heard this right now, you got to do me a favor. I've just got a picture in my mind about maybe that base in Japan. And I don't know what time it is there now. But maybe he's dialed in watching the game with some of the boys and getting high fives from all of them, because we just talked about that email. Can't you see it right now?
I can see it.
I hope it's happening. There goes Frazier. And a bouncing ball. Frazier will advance as Phillips is thrown out. That was an easy double play ball otherwise, but by starting the runner, the go-ahead run in scoring position with 1 out.
Well, you've got to make sure that you've got a hitter up there that you trust being able to put the bat on the ball at least. And if he's able to put the bat on the ball, other than hitting into a line drive double play, that's about the worst thing that's going to happen, is that you advance the runner with a ground ball that would have been in DP lane.
So now Jay Bruce maybe coming back home will get Jay started offensively. In 8 games since coming off the disabled list with that knee injury and knee surgery, 4 hits and 30 at bats. And he does not have a run batted in since returning from the disabled list. Two and 0. At least his first time through the batting order. Not necessarily Hamilton, although after he fell behind 0-2, he did take a couple of pitches, was able to foul off a pitch or two. Frazier showing patience, draws a walk. Phillips an extended at bat, and now 2-0 to Bruce, and way out in front. 2-1.
Well, he got a 2-0 count, and you're thinking fastball, and he gets a pitch which looks right down the middle, but it was a changeup, and that's why he was way out in front. I think he's just trying to see something, to try to make good contact, maybe get a good at bat here, feel the flow a little bit better. Obviously, really searching for it.
2-1 to Bruce. Well, he got the fastball there and came up empty.
Hey, you see that fastball at 89 miles an hour. When Tim Lincecum was winning Cy Young Awards back-to-back in 2008 and 2009, he was dialing that fastball up about 5 miles an hour faster. He was averaging around 94 and plus on his fastball. And he still got a very good changeup, but the spread between fastball and changeup not nearly as much.
2-2 on Jay Bruce, and that one down the right field line, and this is going to bring in the go-ahead run. Frazier scores. Bruce his first RBI since coming off the disabled list in a 2-1 Reds lead.
Jay gets another fastball right here, gets his foot down, short swing, gets enough of the bat on the ball to get it right down that right field line for a double. That's got to feel awfully good for Jay Bruce.
And that also happens to be a milestone RBI for Bruce, the 500th of his very young and very, very productive major league career. So congratulations, Jay Bruce. Now Mesoraco. And he looks at the first pitch low. Ball 1. 8 home runs, 25 runs batted in, a .351 batter is Devin Mesoraco. In the air, way back. Look out! 2-run big fly, Mesoraco. What a year this young man is having.
Wow. I mean, is this kid coming into his own or what? I mean, he gets a fastball. Any fastball is good for Mesoraco, but when you get a ball on the inner part of the plate and you think you can run it up and in on him, it better have a little more hair than 90 miles an hour on it. He just unjammed Lincecum about 450 feet.
How about this? The Reds 4 in the first inning. And still only 1 out. Dave Righetti, the Giants pitching coach. A very brief meeting on the mound with Lincecum. Tonight is a 26th start of the year for Mesoraco. He has a hit in all but 5 of those starts, and has a run batted in 14 of the 26 starts. He has just been a monster when they've had him healthy enough to get on the field. Right now it's Brian Pena, and it's 2 balls and no strikes. Pena carries with him a season high and a career best 9-game hitting streak. 13 hits in his last 32 at bats. That is a .406 average. And Lincecum needing a compass to find the plate. He has fallen behind every hitter in the inning with the exception of Hamilton, who led off the game with a double.
And if you notice, he's not just missing by an inch or two. When he misses a lot of times almost to the screen. So you know, I have a theory about that. I mean, if you're wild outside the strike zone, chances are you're wild inside the strike zone, and you're going to throw your fair share of ones right down Broadway.
All right, chase ball 4 there. Pitch up in the zone and pops it up to Morse in short left field. 2 away.
Devin Mesoraco with a huge 2-run home run, and he gets a ball on the inner part of the plate there. I thought the ball was a little higher than that, but it's actually right about waist high. But when you're talking about inner third, man, that is a hitting zone for Devin Mesoraco.
So 2 away now. The 7th batter in the Reds' first inning. A 4-run first inning is Skip Schumaker. He'll be sharing time out in the left field. In fact, there are going to be 2 or 3 of them sharing time out there. Brian Price giving Ryan Ludwig the word over the weekend that you're going to mix in Schumaker with more playing time. And I'm sure we'll see Heisey from time to time. There's a roller by the mound. And Crawford will throw out Schumaker. But how about the Reds in the first? The beat goes on, lighting up Lincecum. They get 4. 2 on the long ball by Mesoraco. By Elkin Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK Ohio. Most times being no hit by an opposing team going back to 58 when they moved from New York to San Francisco. And the Giants have been no hit more than any other team overall in their franchise 16 times, which is 3rd most all time in big league history. Morse on the first pitch against Homer Bailey here in the 2nd inning. A 2-hopper to Brandon Phillips. Homer Bailey firing darts out there early on. He has thrown a total of 15 pitches, and all of them with the exception of 1, which is ironic because the home run ball would have been a ball.
You're right. Well, he's coming out throwing a lot of fastballs, and this is something that we've seen him change starting about 3 starts ago. And in his last 3 starts, he's thrown his fastball 70% of the time instead of about 60% of the time. And I think that has a lot to do with getting ahead of hitters and challenging. I mean, after all, not everybody out there has the arm that Homer Bailey has. And if you're a San Francisco Giant, you probably look out there on the mound and think this guy's a superhero with the way he dominated this Giants team last year during that no-hitter.
Well, I mean, going back to 2012 in that playoff game, I mean, Bailey allowed 1 hit and 1 run and punched out 10.
Yep.
And did not win a game.
So believe me, they may not know the exact numbers, but the Giants realize they think this guy's got the best stuff of anybody in the league. And Homer probably feels pretty good about seeing the Giants uniform coming up to the plate.
One and two on Hector Sanchez, and that's off the outside corner to even the count. Even in a backup role, Sanchez has still driven in 21 runs. And it's not like he's doing it with a lot of power, only 2 home runs. And that one hit him. Fastball that ran up and in on the left-handed batter, so he'll take first base with 1 out here in the 2nd inning. So now the light hitting shortstop Brandon Crawford, light from a batting average standpoint, only .236, but he does have 6 home runs, 10 doubles, 3 triples, and 26 runs batted in. And that ball is lined into the corner, and that will be off the wall. Sanchez on his way to third, and into second with a double is Crawford. So the Reds get 4 runs in the bottom of the 1st inning to give Bailey a 3-run lead, and now they're at second and third with only 1 out.
Both of these last 2 hitters rather light hitting players. As you mentioned, Tom, Sanchez hitting .227. Crawford more known for his defense, hitting .236. But he picks up his 11th double of the year and puts a couple of runners in scoring position for Tim Lincecum, who is looking for his first hit of the year, and it won't be Lincecum. Excuse me, it's Arias coming up. Lincecum on deck.
Arias only at 174 with 5 runs batted in. The Reds will concede the run, the infield playing back. And Bailey misses with a fastball up and in.
Well, you know, when you're a pitcher in this situation and you see that the manager wants to get an out in exchange for a run, you're thinking to yourself, I don't want that run to score. I'm going to go for a strikeout right here, especially when you're up there facing the number 8 hitter.
Fly ball into right. Bruce prepares himself for the throw. And here comes a throw to the plate, and it is slightly offline. Even a perfect throw would have been very close. So a sac fly run batted in for Arias, and it is a 4-2 ball game. Advancing on to third is Crawford.
That's a fairly deep fly ball. You see where Bruce is when he picks that ball up, and he makes a strong throw, but it just goes to show you from 300 feet or so, when you're off by a couple feet, especially to the foul side of the line, you're not going to get your man.
So the hit batsman comes back to bite Bailey. He was ahead in the count in that at bat to Sanchez, a couple of strikes. And now the pitcher Lincecum. Fastball to strike 1. Hitless in 14 at bats is Lincecum in his career, a 115 hitter. Nothing in 2. Well, what a beautiful night.
After a beautiful day. Although it did rain a little bit at the ballpark and canceled batting practice. They put the tarp on about 5 o'clock. Maybe a little bit before that. Pulled it off about 5:30, 5:45. And the field looks great.
Good crowd tonight for this Tuesday night battle. First of 3. And gone swinging Lincecum. The Giants have scored in each of the first 2. But they trailed by 2.
I'm Jim Day down here by the Reds dugout. Now, Billy Hamilton is a major Mike Trout fan. They both came into the league in the '09 draft. And Billy Hamilton got a surprise today when he got home and got to the ballpark today. A Mike Trout signed bat. This was unsolicited from Mike Trout. He found out that Billy was a big fan, and he wrote on it, "To Billy, speed kills," with his signature right there. So Billy's going to return the favor. He's going to send him some signed spikes going back. And he talks about Mike Trout in glowing terms. He's like, "Man, I come in and I look at the stats every day and I just can't believe how good that guy is. He is definitely my favorite player in the league." So pretty cool surprise from Mike Trout.
Well, it's really nice of Mike Trout. Of course, they say he is quite a young man, born and raised in New Jersey. Mike Trout, and a lot like Todd Frazier, a Jersey guy through and through. Outgoing, fun to be around.
You know, it's nice to know that there's a mutual admiration at this level. That these guys pay attention to what's going on. Mike Trout in a different league on the West Coast. They're paying attention to box scores. They're watching players and games on TV all the time. And it's nice to know certain players have certain favorites, even when they get here.
All right, Reds with a 4-2 lead. They'll have 8, 9, and 1 against Lincecum here in the second inning. Cozart, Bailey, then Billy Hamilton. Cozart behind at a ball and 2 strikes. Lincecum walked the batter, gave up 4 runs and 3 hits, and he strikes out Frazier on 4 pitches. Or Cozart, I beg your pardon, 1 away. Well, you know the drill. For Red hits a home run off the Toyota sign out by the Power Stacks. Catherine Newman from Cincinnati will win the beautiful new Tundra. Register for your chance to win at an upcoming game by visiting your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. First strikeout for Lincecum, who despite his ups and downs in recent years is still striking out a lot of batters. He's averaging more than a strikeout per game. He did not have a strikeout in the first inning.
Yeah, he's turned it up performance-wise last few starts. In fact, the last 4 games, he is 2-1. Earned run average right around 2.1, and he has struck out more batters than innings pitched.
Bailey, a 1-hopper at Pablo Sandoval, 2 gone. Well, you can follow every Reds game with MLB.com at bat on your favorite mobile phone or tablet. You can download on the App Store. Visit Reds.com today. After a 32-pitch opening inning, it's been 7 pitches to get the first 2 batters here in the Reds' second inning for Tim Lincecum. And now he'll face Billy Hamilton, who led off the first inning with a double down the left field line. And that is a fair ball. And he's thrown out easily by Sanchez. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds. We take it to the 3rd. Reds in front 4-2. Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by JTM Food Group. Let's create great dishes together. By Toyota. For over 30 Toyota offers, visit buyatoyota.com. By B-Dub, spend $30 on a gift card for dads and grads. They'll give you a $5 bonus. Buffalo Wild Wings, Wings, Beer, Sports. And by T-Mobile, Tuesday Night Baseball. Good night to be out on the river. Had a lot of humidity in the air earlier, but that number has dropped significantly, as they predicted it would, as this night moves forward. Here's an important inning here for Homer Bailey. You got the top of the order. Giants have already scored against him in each of the first 2 innings. His team gave him a 3-run lead with a 4-run first inning. That's off the inside corner, and he's fallen behind 2-0 to Angel Pagan. Well, what an impact Pagan has made since coming to the Giants, when he is healthy enough to get on the field, which really he wasn't at all last year. And last year was a lost year for this Giants team after winning it all in 2012. Pagan that year led the league in triples when they won the World Series. And out of that leadoff spot, he knocked in nearly 60 runs. 3-0 pitch, and he takes a strike. But in last year, only 71 games. This year, healthy, playing every day, best record in the league. And there are a lot of other guys that get a lot more pub than Pagan up and down this Giant roster. And Bailey has walked Pagan to begin the inning. Well, right now at FoxSportsOhio.com, you can chat with the Hall of Famer Al McCoy. Check out photos of the Fox Sports Ohio girl Christine's experience at the Redlegs run, and Andy Dalton shares his latest thoughts. Brought to you by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO. Drive safe, spend less. Boy, not a good start here to this inning by Bailey, walking Pagan with a 2-run lead. And now Pence, who homered off him in the first inning, looks at ball 1 away.
Watch Pence's front leg. When he takes a stride, he's striding pretty much towards the shortstop, opening up a little bit, maybe looking for something to pull again. Very active at the plate. That he hit was a pitch up in his eyes. I mean, tomahawked that ball right out of here, and he's a very unconventional type hitter. I think the best way to get him is just pitch him down and away, and with that stance right there, you make him make the adjustment, because until he closes up, he's not going to have much in the way of plate coverage. His high water mark for home runs was last year when he knocked 27 of them. He's normally anywhere from 22 to 25 per season.
Well, what a deal it turned out to be when the Giants acquired him from the Phillies in 2012. First time in his career he knocked in over 100 runs. 45 of those came with the Giants after they brought him over starting the 1st of August that year. And he hits this one hard down the left field line, and that is a fair ball into the corner. Pagan on his way to third. He'll stop there, and here come the Giants against Homer Bailey. A walk and a double.
I think he got that pitch up again. I mean, Pence is looking for something up in the zone, and you can go away with a pitch, and it can even be 3 or 4 inches outside, but it is above your waist. Very easy for the hitter to put the good part of the bat on the ball. It's a lot harder to get to that ball when it's down around the knees in a way. And there's Pagan, goes to third on that Hunter Pence double.
And we'll see if Bailey can get it together here. They've already scored on him in each of the first 2 innings, and they're at second and third in the third with none out. And the batter is Buster Posey. He struck out his first time up. We have talked about it this year. Homer Bailey pitching with a lead. Opponents are batting .333 against Homer Bailey after his team gives him a lead in games this year. Now, some people have suggested that's been going on for a long time. That would not be accurate, but it is this year. 0-2 on Posey.
I think maybe some of that happened early in the year. You know, his first 3 starts were not very good at all. And then he pitched a real good game against the Chicago Cubs. 6 innings of shutout ball, struck out 8, and everybody thought, well, now Homer's going to turn the corner, only to give up 5 runs in his next start. But those were his first 5 or 6 starts of the year, and he has gotten progressively better. And I really thought that the last game he pitched 7 innings of 2-run ball against the Dodgers may have been his high water mark as far as performance on the season, considering all the circumstances involved.
0-2 on Buster Posey. And they try to run a fastball up and in at 95, and he's able to get a bat on it to hang around. Well, the Giants have done it this year offensively with power and hitting with runners in scoring position. I showed you some of those numbers already this year, and they are eerily similar to what the St. Louis Cardinals did a season ago. Straight up in the air. Hamilton in, Phillips out, Brandon the catch. The runners stay put. 1 away in the inning.
Now, Homer has never been a guy that gets a lot of ground balls, but this year his ground ball ratio is way up over his major league average. A lot more 2-seamers, throwing a lot more splitters that are down in the zone to get ground balls. So if he gets behind Sandoval right here, you've got a base opener first, you've got a right-handed hitter in Morse coming up next, and you could plan this inning out looking for Morse to get a ground ball if you were to make your pitches. That is maybe a better alternative to grooving one to Sandoval.
Came after him at 95, and it's fouled away. Strike 1 to Pablo Sandoval, who fouled out to the third baseman Frazier, ending the Giants' first inning. They wanted it up and in. They got it too far up and in, and it's a ball and a strike. Well, Sandoval came into this series the hottest hitter in this Giants lineup. 12-game hitting streak. Now, his numbers not necessarily following suit in this category with many of his teammates. And Bailey hoping to keep it even lower than that. 1-1 pitch. Threw a fastball right by him to get ahead. Every pitch in this at bat, they have gone up above the letters to Sandoval with fastballs. They go there again for a 4th time, and it misses. Ball 2. That is a foul ball. All right, Chris, you went down in the dirt there. Pitch down in the zone there to get him a chase. 2-2 after everything was up to begin the at bat. What about now?
You go back upstairs. I mean, the one thing about that split finger that he throws left-hander is that it is best when it's right down there in the dirt. I don't think you want to throw him that pitch for a strike. You still have a pitch to work with.
They came with a fastball up, and it is driven to deep center field. Hamilton runs it down. The runner will tag and score from third. And now it's a one-run ball game at 4-3. Boy, Sandoval hit that ball a long way, and what a play by Billy Hamilton.
Yeah, really, it's easy to overlook how good a play it is by Billy Hamilton when he strikes the ball the way he does. But let's take a look at the at-bat, our Mazda pitch by pitch. And you're going to see early in this at-bat, Homer Bailey and Devin Mesoraco going right after Sandoval upstairs with the high fastball, hoping that the Kung Fu Panda will chase something. He finally wastes one down in the dirt, a splitter, gets a high fastball again, but maybe not as high as he wanted it, and a sacrifice fly the results.
So one more out to get for Bailey. Giants have scored single runs now in each of the first 3 innings against the Reds right-hander tonight. And there's strike one to right-handed batting Michael Morse. Morse has been an excellent pickup, at least through the first 2 months of this season. .293 batter, 11 home runs, 38 batted in, has added 16 doubles. Broken bat roller, and Cozart will throw him out, but the Giants another run, and a 4-1 lead is down to a single run. Runs on Sunday, accounting for all the scoring. We take a look at who's scoring the most runs via the home run ball from a percentage standpoint, and only Atlanta barely ahead of the Reds. Atlanta is 41.8% of its runs scored via the home run ball. 50% of their 4 runs in the first inning tonight, a result of a home run, a 2-run blast by Mesoraco. The Reds had a 4-1 lead at the end of an inning, but the Giants, who have scored in each of the first 3 frames off Homer Bailey, have trimmed it down to 1. Frazier walked and scored on the double by Jay Bruce in the first inning. Cardinals off and running after being shut out by Kansas City last night. Cardinals a 4-0 third inning lead against the Royals tonight. Liner right at the second baseman. Boy, Frazier's got to feel snake bit. Seems like every time he's put the bat on the ball lately, it's been a liner right back up through the middle, and half of them are caught. Well, it's time to tweet your photo using hashtag #OhioFanPhoto and have it perhaps shown during an upcoming telecast here on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by AT&T. Brandon Phillips bounced out to the second baseman his first time up. Strike one to Brandon. The division leading Brewers will be playing in about 5 minutes from now. They're at home entertaining Minnesota. They beat the Twins in the opener of that series last night. And later tonight, the Pirates will take on San Diego. Pirates won the final game of that series at Dodger Stadium on Sunday night and then beat the Padres 10-3 in the opener of that series last night. Reds begin play 3 games under 500. They're 7.5 behind Milwaukee. Only 2.5 behind the Cardinals, who have slipped to 5 games back after losing their last 2. Boy, they were kicked around by these Giants over the weekend.
Yeah, talking to some of the Giants personnel about that series that they had with the Cardinals, and they just thought that the Cardinals were in all sorts of disarray right now. They do think that they'll be a lot better ball club. They've got good arms there, of course, in St. Louis, but they were just manhandled by this Giants team.
Well, the Giants outscored them in a 4-game series 23-11. Found out a play on a 3-1 pitch, and it should be noted they scored 23 runs in 3 games, because the only game the Cardinals won was a 2-0 shutout.
Michael Wacha.
Two to Brandon Phillips, and that's strike 3 called.
Brandon thinks this, yeah, he thought it was up. You can read his lips right there. We'll see where that pitch is. Brandon has kind of a crouch, and the way an umpire judges the top end of the strike zone is when you have a normal swing, where is your body? And the top end of the strike zone is the halfway point between the belt and the shoulders. So you figure it from there.
Jay Bruce pops it up on the first pitch to Sandoval, and now that's back-to-back perfect innings for Lincecum.
Cincinnati leads here at Fox Sports Ohio. I'm Jim Day, back with you. Homer Bailey goes back to the hill for Cincinnati. Now, if I were to poll you out there and ask you, who do you think the most well-read Cincinnati Red is? Meaning, who's the guy that reads the most books? Not magazines, but books. The answer is Homer Bailey. The guy's got a book in his hand all the time. Ask him what his favorite book is today. He said, Lonesome Dove by the Pulitzer Prize-winning Larry McMurtry. So he's got that persona of a country guy, horse guy, that big burly man kind of persona. But Homer Bailey, the most well-read on the team.
You know, I've noticed that about Homer Bailey, that over the years he has read, I would imagine, every Louis L'Amour book ever written.
That's right up his alley.
Yeah. So is Lonesome Dove.
Well, that is a very good habit to have, being a reader. 0-1 to Hector Sanchez. Bailey has allowed a single run in each of the first 2 innings, and really it's been, you know, the home run ball by Pence, that happens, but he hit Hector Sanchez with 1 out in the 2nd inning. He wound up scoring. He walked Angel Pagan on 4 pitches to begin the 3rd inning, and he too wound up scoring. 1-2 to Sanchez. Struck him out. 3 in the game now for Bailey.
Now back-to-back same pitches right here. That little slider down and in. That's a great pitch to left-handers, as long as you don't leave it out over the center of the plate. If you miss inside, even if they hit it, they're going to hit it foul. That's a pitch that Mike Leake has gotten so good at throwing and really being able to take care of left-handers with it. And Homer Bailey taking a page out of that book.
Brandon Crawford doubled down the left field line his first time up. He'll bat with 1 out and nobody on here in the Giants' 4th inning. Night game tomorrow night, an afternoon tilt on Thursday. Tony Cingrani, Ryan Vogelsong. Vogelsong, a right-hander for the Giants tomorrow. And then what a matchup on Thursday. 2 of the best pitchers in the league so far this year, as Leake will lock up with Madison Bumgarner,
who was just awarded the pitcher of the month.
Crawford fouls out to Frazier, and a reminder, coming up later on, we'll have our Miller Time moment, brought to you by Miller Lite. Arias, a sac fly run batted into right field in the 2nd inning. He'll bat with 2 away and none on. Strike 1. Ooh, called that a ball. Brandon Phillips probably wondering what's the difference between that one and the one I got rung up on. Hamilton is there, and the inning is over. A scoreless inning for the first time tonight for Bailey, and the Reds will bat leading 4-3. team up to offer you a great value this season. It's called the Kroger Meal Deal. You can check concession stands around the ballpark. The Kroger Meal Deal, you get a hot dog, a bag of chips, a 16-ounce Coke, and during this homestand, Blue Diamond almonds, all for just $9. Make sure to get your Kroger Meal Deal next time you come see us at the ballpark. And we invite you to come down tomorrow night. 7:10 first pitch, 12:35 on Thursday. And right on into the weekend and through the first 4 days of next week. Giants, Phillies, Dodgers all in town. There's a Rocco, a home run his first time up. Don't forget, tomorrow is the Aroldis Chapman bobblehead giveaway to the first 25,000. That is a foul ball off the bat of Mesoraco, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. So if you want that Aroldis Chapman bobblehead, get your tickets and come down here early tomorrow night. Reds 4, Giants 3. We're in the last of the 4th inning. All the Reds base runners in this game against Lincecum reached in the first inning. 4 runs, 3 hits, and a walk. And he'll retire Mesoraco to begin this inning. Well, you can win your way to NASCAR's Quakers Take 400 in the Kentucky Speedway Getaway Sweepstakes, and that's aboard the Fan Express. Today's keyword, race, R-A-C-E. Enter that on the entry page at foxsportsohio.com. Stay tuned every day for a new keyword and a new chance to win. Ball 1 to Brian Pena. 9 in a row retired now by Lincecum since the Mesoraco home run to cap off the 4-run opening inning. You may remember Lincecum last year threw a no-hitter in which he threw 148 pitches. That was last July. That was a little less than 2 weeks after Homer Bailey had no-hit Lincecum and the Giants here at Great American Ballpark. But 148 pitches. Lincecum in his last start was taken out of the game, having not allowed a hit through 5 innings. But he had a very high pitch count at 96. Started to develop a blister on his right middle finger. Well, that's the first time in a long time a Giant manager has taken a pitcher out of a game after 5 or more innings without allowing a hit. You got to go all the way back to Frank Robinson when he pulled fellow who's sitting in the booth next door, Mike Krukow, right here in Cincinnati after 6 innings of no-hit ball. Well, we asked Mike about that before the game. He said he had just come off the disabled list, and they felt like they needed to get him out of that game. Or at least Frank Robinson thought he needed to come out of the game.
And he said his pitch count wasn't up there, at least by those standards back in the 80s. He said that was about 95 pitches or so, 6 innings. Because back in those days, of course, we had, maybe 135, 130 pitch count. Now, if you get over 105, people start biting their fingernails. The most pitches that Lincecum has thrown in a ball game this year is 114. Of course, a lot of things have changed. You've got 7 guys down in the bullpen now in 2014, and back in those days you might have 4 or 5. So you were expected to carry your weight at least into the 6th or 7th inning.
Well, the walk to Pena, and now it's Schumacher, and he hits a ground ball right through the legs of Posey. And Pena going to slam on the brakes after a turn at second base. That'll be an error on Buster Posey. See if the Reds can take advantage of it.
It looks like Buster goes down and gets in a good position to get this ball. It looks like it goes right through the wickets. Maybe it took a little funny hop on him. Or maybe it didn't. This play happening behind Brian Payton. You see him running right there, and he's only looking at the third base coach, which is what you should do. And Smith held up the stop sign. The Reds now have a chance to do some damage here.
Zach Cozart, the batter, he struck out his first time up. That pitch down low, check swing. He did not go around on the appeal to Adrian Johnson. Reds trying to add to this one-run lead here in the bottom half of the fourth inning. Trying to take advantage of a walk and an error. That ball went foul, came back fair, then went foul. How about that? That's whether you're the batter or the fielder, you never umpire. Go hard after it. That ball was hit, barely hit, off the very, very end of the bat. 2-2 now to Cozart. And he's gone on strikes, 2 away in the inning. That's just a baffling at bat right there by Cozart.
This pitch that he goes after is a slider, and Lincecum is using it tonight an awful lot, more than he normally does.
And you wonder why, the word baffling. You get into a 2-0 count, and you take a fastball down the middle, and that's what happens to guys when things aren't going well. But then the next two pitches, off speed, down, and barely contact for strike 2, and then gone swinging, and it's up to Bailey. Homer lifts one in the air to right center field, and Pagan will make a nice catch out there, and that'll end the inning.
Style points.
An error, 2 left. We go to the 5th. Reds lead the Giants 4-3. Right here on Fox Sports Ohio with Reds Live. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. And of course, after the game, Fox Sports Ohio breaks it all down. Brings you the first interviews with the skipper Brian Price. You'll hear from players as well. Reds Live, the post game, brought to you by Kings Honda. 4 runs, 3 hits, 2 left for the Reds. 3 runs, 3 hits, 2 errors, 2 stranded for the Giants.
And how about this? The folks from the Winton Woods Intermediate School celebrating a little bow tie Tuesday here at the ballpark. And we want to say congratulations out to all of them on a great year, and also to Marcia Myers Eldridge, who retires after 30 years, a school teacher from the Winton Woods School District. And she brought 30 of her teaching friends along with her tonight to enjoy the big game down here at Great American Ballpark.
Congratulations to her indeed. I'm sure she has had a great impact on so many kids that have passed through that school district. Congratulations. Pitcher spot to lead it off. Then we roll back over to Pagan and Pence. 1-1 to Lincecum, who struck out his first time up. And now the count even on Tim Lincecum at 2 balls and 2 strikes. You know, this up and down cycle is pretty much right on schedule for this Giants team, at least over the last handful of years. They won the World Series in 2010. In 2011, did not make the playoffs. They won the World Series in 2012, and last year finished 10 games under 500. So here they are the very next year with the best record in the National League. Lincecum gone on strikes to begin the inning. Well, the Reds will be around this weekend. Come around down to Great American Ballpark on Saturday. The first 20,000 fans receive a Reds cap thanks to Fox Sports Ohio. We'll look forward to seeing you Saturday, and note the start time there. That is a 4:10 game this Saturday afternoon.
Well, the fortunes really for the Giants changed after they had Bruce Bochy on board and then gave him a few years to kind of get things going. When he first came over from the Padres, and he managed the Padres for 12 years, had a record below 500, won only 1 pennant there in those 12 years. And when he came over to the Giants in 2007, he won 71 games and then 72, and then they began to take off. As you said, in 2010, that's when they won the first World Series, after they won 92 games during the regular season, and then won 94 in 2012 when they won their second World Series championship.
And of course, that one they won in 2010 was the first one the franchise had won since moving from New York. And they had some good teams.
They did. Very good teams.
Of course, Dusty Baker took the Giants team to a World Series where they lost in 2002 in 7 games to the Anaheim Angels. That ball golfed into short left center. Schumacher there. Pagan retired, 2 away.
Now their manager, Bruce Bochy, now has been managing the Giants for 8 years. And he was maybe the only manager that I've ever heard of who was born in France. Born at Lens du Boussac, which was an airfield in southwestern France. His father, of course, in the Air Force. It was used as a military base back in the 1950s. So, and now, evidently, according to our research done by Joe Luckett, it is used as a French prison. So, wonder if Bruce Bochy knows that. I may have to drop that on tomorrow.
I bet he doesn't know that.
Guess who's living in your nursery?
You don't want to meet any of those guys. One and one to Hunter Pence. 2 for 2 is Pence. A home run and a double.
That's a spot. I mean, that ball, he couldn't have hit that ball with a boat oar. But he had made up his mind he was going to take a hack. And this is kind of the way that Hunter Pence approaches things. And he steps down the left field line and just cuts it loose. And he can look so bad on one pitch and hit the next pitch 400 feet.
Back up through the middle and into center field, and Pence is 3 for 3.
Just kind of a wild flailing swing right there, but he's got good enough plate coverage to be able to get that ball enough contact and some overspin.
Guy's been a good player for a long time.
And a good leader on a ball club.
I mean, he was a guy you may remember that that from a strictly emotional level in the dugout, I've never seen anything like it in a baseball game in my life before Game 3 when the Reds came back here. We all remember, would love to forget, but came back here after dominating the Giants in the best of 5, winning the first 2 games out in San Francisco. It was like a football huddle, and Pence was the guy in the middle of it all, getting his team fired up, much like you would see football players before a game, getting them emotionally charged up. They won that game, of course, by a single run. He did the same thing in Game 4, the same thing in Game 5, and did the same thing all the rest of the way through the NLCS and the World Series. Buster Posey has his first hit. And maybe to relive some of that magic in 2012, he had him excited before the game here today.
Well, that's a loose group right now, because during the delay, the rain delay, that
I beg your pardon, this is video from the 2012 playoffs.
During the rain delay today, they had their kangaroo court. And I think Buster Posey might be the judge, but I wouldn't be surprised if that guy you see right there, Hunter Pence, was their, say, sergeant of arms. But they were hooting and hollering, having a good time in that Reds visiting clubhouse today in preparation for their game tonight.
Well, that is one thing you hear people talk about most frequently about this Giant team is they really have a lot of fun, and it's a fun clubhouse to be around, and Sandoval's right in the middle of all of that generally. And as Chris mentioned earlier, he is a free agent at the end of the year. Bailey's run into 2-out trouble here in the Giants' 5th. 2-out singles by Pence and Posey. And a 1-0 to Sandoval. A ball and a strike. Well, you may remember that last at bat to Sandoval, with runners at second and third and 1 out. First 4 pitches in the at bat, all fastballs up above the letters. They went down with a splitter that he barely got a piece of to stay alive. They went back upstairs, but not high enough. And Sandoval drove that ball 400 feet, caught by Hamilton on the track. 2-1.
Homer didn't want to really get to this point where you have to throw him a strike. You've got a hitter's count, 3 balls, 1 strike. Just missed with a breaking ball down, and he'll take some extra time now as he kind of thinks about what he might want to throw and what he feels like he is best at getting Sandoval out.
On Sandoval. And they go away with a fastball at 96, and the count is full.
Pretty good spot with a pretty good pitch right there.
Now Bailey trying to finish him off. They gave up single runs in each of the first 3. Retired the side in order in the 4th. Giants with 2-out singles here in the 5th.
You know, this conversation obviously is about what you're going to throw to Sandoval on this pitch. And it really ought to come down, bottom line, as to what Homer Bailey feels is his best chance of getting Sandoval out. Which pitch does he feel best about? About being able to throw where he wants it.
Well, the runners will get started on 3-2. And here it is. Struck him out on a fastball the way to end the inning. Reds still lead 4-3. Office tonight with a great offer right now. $10 tickets for the entire series against the Phillies this weekend. Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, but you have to do it tonight. Go to Reds.com/FSOhio. Use the code 14FSOH. 14FSOH to get your $10 tickets right now. How you gonna beat that? $10?
Sweet.
I mean, so you hear that, you know, said all the time, oh, you got to spend $100 to go down to a ball game. No. 4 tickets, $40. But you have to do it right now, tonight during our game. Reds lead by a run. Top of the order, bottom of the 5th inning. Hamilton fouls it out of play, and he's behind 0-2. Billy doubled. Scored on an errant throw by Lincecum, trying to pick him off second base. And if you weren't with us, he had him picked off. Hamilton was going to run, drifted about 20 feet from the bag, but Lincecum threw it in the dirt And Hamilton came all the way in to score. And that's a ground ball. Crawford, a nice pickup, but even with a clean pickup, he would not have thrown out Hamilton, who has his second hit of the night.
Billy Hamilton, you know, he knows the importance of just putting the ball in play on the ground. He gets out of the box very quickly, and you know, even if Crawford fields that ball cleanly and turns and fires, I mean, he's a good defensive shortstop. You're still not even close to getting Hamilton at the bag.
Now Billy watches as Frazier takes ball one. Lincecum almost quick pitched Frazier there, guarding against Hamilton running on the first pitch. We brought up the numbers earlier. Chris brought them up. The numbers basically 4 out of every 5 attempts throughout his career, successful base stealing attempts. And no chance. And now Hamilton's on his way to third. I mean, Sanchez had no chance. He threw from his knees way off and into center field, and just like that, Hamilton goes first and third with nobody out.
You know, it is pretty much assumed and given that Yadier Molina is the smartest catcher in the National League. And how many times have we seen in a short career now, Billy Hamilton, of Yadier Molina doesn't even throw the ball. He realizes that Hamilton's got such a big jump. I'm just going to throw it back to the pitcher because I might throw it into center field. He may end up on third. Nobody out. Great chance now to add a run.
If I'm not mistaken, Hamilton is 7 out of 7 against Yadier Molina in stolen base attempts in his career. And I bet you 3 or 4 of those. No, but yeah, off the pitcher. Yeah. But I'm just saying, but a lot of it is like what you're talking about. I bet you 3 or 4 of those, like you said, he didn't even throw the ball.
I mean, if you sense that the guy's got that big of a jump, you have no chance of him throwing him out. Why would you even throw the ball into center field?
And now a walk to Frazier.
It can be unnerving out there, that kind of speed.
Now you're thinking about doing some damage here in this 5th inning against Lincecum. They're on the corners with nobody out. Reds lead 4-3. And Brandon Phillips about it. He's 0 for 2, has bounced out and was called out on strikes his last time up in the 3rd. A fair ball up the line all the way to the corner. Frazier on his way to third. They're going to whip him around, and he will score behind Hamilton. 2-run double for Brandon Phillips.
Brandon comes to the plate ready to hit. He just saw base on balls at Todd Frazier. A breaking ball it was up, and Brandon rips it down the third base line.
Despite the fact that Dave Righetti's just come on to have a quick visit with Lincecum, so far no action in the Giant bullpen. Reds have scored 6 off Lincecum here tonight. 4 in the 1st, 2 so far in the 5th. Runner at second, nobody out.
Now 2 at-bats by Jay Bruce, very quick at-bats, both of them first pitch swinging on changeups. Neither time did he have a very good swing. See if he makes an adjustment.
And Phillips took off just as Lincecum picked his leg up. That is Brandon's first stolen base of the year.
You know, Sparky Anderson always used to say that the best time to put a play on is right after something happened. And the something that just happened was the double by Brandon Phillips. So before the defense and Lincecum even gets to get back into the flow of the game, he steals third. Brilliant move.
A lot of guys learned that under Sparky Anderson. Roger Craig being one of those guys who learned it. That was his philosophy all those years he managed these Giants as well. Well, Jay took the first 2 pitches in the at-bat. And now 2-1 does not chase a changeup down and away, as the Giants finally now do have some action out in their bullpen. Left-hander David Huff begins to throw. And a base hit by Bruce, his second RBI of the afternoon. And the Reds have put 3 on the board here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Brought it up. That's a much better at bat there by Jay Bruce.
Well, and really the approach was better. The approach at this at bat gave him a chance to drive the ball better than he did in the first couple of at bats when he just seemed so anxious. Bruce has hit a home run against Lincecum in his career. In fact, he came into this game 2 for 6, so he's seen him a little bit. I think he just got anxious here trying to get that batting average up, and that much better at bat results in a run.
And there goes Bruce. Sanchez's throw into center field. Bruce on to third base. 4 errors in the game tonight by the Giants, and we're only in the 5th inning.
Well, this year the Giants team, normally a team that can catch and throw the ball pretty efficiently.
Well, you love the aggressiveness, though, of the Reds. I mean, it's one thing to have a guy on the mound, and let's face it, there have been a lot of guys on the mound that didn't hold base runners on very well that we've seen in recent years, and the Reds would just never run. Tonight there is full throttle.
Oh, you're applying pressure to him, and that's what you do when you have the lead, because if you get thrown out at this point, so what? But what you can do is you continue to put the pressure on him, and then you put the game out of reach. A 4-run lead now.
And a runner at third due to the stolen base in the air. Mesoraco, a good eye there. Pitch in the dirt, 2 balls and a strike.
You know, Mesoraco came into this ball game having seen Lincecum in 2 different at-bats. One of those resulted in a home run. So what happened the first time he comes up? It's another home run. So how about now 2 for 4? With both hits being home runs off of Tim Lincecum.
Two and 2 on Devin. Hey, by the way, Jay Bruce, we told you got his 500th RBI his first time up, 501 last time up. How about the company he joins, reaching 500 runs batted in by the age of 27? How about Bench, Robinson, Pinson, and Dunn? And now Jay Bruce in that group. One hopper to the shortstop, and that's the first out of the inning with Bruce staying at third base. Well, they have the left-hander ready in the bullpen. Do they make the move now and force Pena to turn around, knowing you have a left-handed batter in Schumaker next? Now looks like they're coming after Pena. He's trying to extend his hitting streak to 10 games in a row. He's 0 for 1 tonight. Has drawn a walk.
Now Pena ought to be thinking about something up in the zone to get into the outfield. Lincecum, of course, thinking about something down in the zone. They've got the infield playing in. They're going to try to cut the run off at the plate. Keep the lead at 4.
Runner coming. Throw to the plate. And the runner is safe at the plate. 8-3 Reds.
Well, if you're going to try to cut off a run at the plate, you cannot back up on a ball. that is hit on the ground to you as an infielder, especially a middle infielder. This is what Arias did right there. He took a step back because he wanted a big hop. The only way you're going to get a play at the plate is if you see that ball coming at you, you got to start charging hard immediately, even if it means getting the ball on a short hop and an unpredictable hop. So the Reds push another run in,
and they push Lincecum off the mound.
That's happened here before.
Came in with an ERA, did Lincecum, of over 8 against the Reds, a team he has never beaten in his major league career, and he's not going to beat him tonight. Our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen.
Left-hander Madison Bumgarner, and look at the number right there, the number 4 under the error column for the San Francisco Giants. They're only in the 5th inning, and here they are. The error by Lincecum himself, as that's Billy Hamilton at the bottom of the 1st inning, throws it into center field. That led to a run. The ball that went through the wickets down at first base, Buster Posey. A sidearm throw by Hector Sanchez. The catcher sends Billy Hamilton to third, and another error by the catcher. A sidearm throw again in vain to try to get Jay Bruce. 4 miscues by the Giants, and the Reds have a 5-run lead.
And they bring on David Huff for the 16th time this year. Runner at first, 1 out. Skip Schumaker, the batter. That'll fall into left center field, a base hit, and the first pitch thrown by Huff. Should be noted that there is still a chance that every one of those runs, despite the 4 errors, could be earned runs against Tim Lincecum.
Well, they were all earned in the 1st inning. And they are earned now, except for, by my calculations, the last one, the one that Jay Bruce scored.
Although I'm not so sure after that base hit.
No, the one that Buster Posey,
that would not make that an earned run as well, because it wasn't like you made an error on a ground ball to short that should have been an out in the inning.
Yeah, the one was unearned in the 1st inning. That was the ball that Bruce hit, right?
No, but the batter would have scored on the double by Bruce. Hamilton, because it was a stolen base and an error on that play. Remember, they gave Hamilton a stolen base, and then he scored on the throwing error, was how that was scored. So I think by that base hit right there by Schumaker, every one of the runs in this inning is now an earned run.
No, pile on then.
Pile on. And we know that Pena is still Lincecum's responsibility as well.
Now, when you're on a multi-year contract, those earned runs don't hurt as bad.
One and 2 on Zach Kozai. 8 runs for the Reds. We were just talking a few days ago, Chris, about the Reds going 5 consecutive games where they had not scored more than 3 runs. 3 times they had 3 runs. Twice they were shut out. And then all of a sudden over the weekend, the bats came alive in Arizona after that very ugly game, the first game of the series. But they scored 6 in a start against Arroyo, 5 behind Johnny Cueto in a 5-0 shutout, and then the 4 runs to win the series finale. And tonight, the most runs since they have scored since May the 1st when they beat Milwaukee 8-3. Speaking of runs, the Cardinals had a 4-0 lead over Kansas City. The Royals have just scored 6 times in the top of the 5th inning. Cardinals just got one of those runs back. That's a wild one there. Two on, 1 out for Zach Cozart. Count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. We invite you to bring the entire family down to Great American Ballpark Sunday and cheer on the Reds at half price with a Reach Magazine family ticket offer. And by the way, Sunday, the first 8,000 kids 14 and younger receive a Kids Brandon Phillips growth chart. Those things are sweet. 381-REDS or log on to Reds.com/family for tickets. New piece of lumber now for Cozart. And hanging around. Fouquet's is signed with Sanchez, and now to 2-2 once more. And Cozart is struck out for the 3rd time. 2 away in the inning.
Now that slider down and in, it looks so tantalizing, and maybe that was just a cut fastball. But he swings right over the top of it.
Now Homer Bailey was given a 4-1 lead at the end of an inning. Giants got it down to a single run before this 4-run barrage in the last of the 5th. Good swing there by Bailey, fouls it straight back.
Well, this kind of run support in support of Homer Bailey is something that the Reds have done a lot of this year. In fact, he right now ranks 2nd in the National League in terms of run support average. That's the number of runs a team scores for you while you're out there pitching. He averages just under 7 runs a game.
That's why he has as many wins as Johnny Cueto, despite the fact that Cueto's earned run average is in the mid-1s and Bailey is in the mid-5s. And Bailey has more wins than Mike Leake. inning over, but a big one for the Reds. They score 4 times, leaving a pair, and lead by 5 at the end of 5. Brought to you by AT&T. Let's take a look at what we have here tonight. How about that with Mr. Redlegs?
That's a nice picture. In fact, the lady on the left is today celebrating her 50th birthday, Kim Tan. We congratulate you on a big birthday, and she's standing right next to her mom and huddling right up there to Mr. Redlegs. That's the way to do it.
So did she tell you it was okay to announce her age on the air?
Yes, she did. Doesn't matter. Well, actually, she didn't, but her brother Bill did.
Well, of course the brother did.
And maybe now that you bring that up, I'm wondering whether I should have done that or not. But I can tell you that her mom, Marilyn, makes the best hanky-panks you've ever had.
Really?
Those little sandwiches they make?
Yeah.
Oh, got to have some of those.
We have 4 other birthdays we want to sneak in tonight, and they are all big ones as well, and not afraid to name their age, as Michael Morse will lead things off here in the Giants' 6th inning. Homer Bailey now spotted with a 5-run lead. The Reds in Fox Sports Ohio would like to wish Art Jones from Chillicothe a very happy 91st birthday tonight. Erlene Harrison from Hamilton, a happy 90th birthday tonight. Helen Johnson, a happy 93rd birthday tonight. And last but certainly not least, a woman born and raised and still lives in the same house in Richmond, Kentucky. Gladys Simpson turns 99 years young today.
Well, happy birthday to one and all.
Man, you know, there must be some in the water around here. 4 birthdays, 90 plus. Happy birthday to all. Hope you've all had a spectacular day and surrounded by those who love you and care about you. And we hope you're enjoying the ball game. Hopefully the Reds can get you a win. Big swing and a miss by Morse. Re-into the count on Morse. One hopper to short. Homer has struck out 5 in a game. He's allowed a 3-run on 5 hits. Giants scored single runs in each of the first 3 innings. That fastball at 95. He just threw it right by Hector Sanchez.
Oh, what a great combination of pitches there. That's a split finger fastball that Homer uses as a changeup. Really dives down and away, and after you see that fastball, you're all geared up for it. And Sanchez coming out of his shoes only to come up empty.
One and 2 on Sanchez. That's a pitch he struck him out on his last time up. Sanchez able to hold up with a swing there. That's 97 on the fastball there from Bailey on his 89th pitch of the game.
Well, we've seen that so many times and remarked about it. It's just Homer Bailey gets stronger in terms of being able to throw with more velocity later in the game. Up around that 90 pitch mark, it seems like he reaches his peak.
And there's strike 3 called at 96.
Well, I like the 96, but I like the location a lot more, and that's why we're going to make that our flamethrower. Brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. Peas at the knees. A little hot sauce on that. Homer Bailey.
Two up, 2 down for Bailey. 6 strikeouts in the game, and now he faces Brandon Crawford, who has doubled and fouled out to third. Ball 1. Red sent 9 men to the plate, scoring 4 times in the 5th inning, so Billy Hamilton will lead off again the next inning. Minnesota, meanwhile, has taken a 4-1 lead over Milwaukee. That game in the 3rd inning up in Wisconsin. And after giving up 6 runs in the top of the 6th inning, the Cardinals come back with 3 in the bottom of the inning. And the Cardinals in front of Kansas City 7-6. Royals seem to be one of those teams, and who knows, maybe we'll be talking about them in August and September, right in the middle of a pennant race, but they seem to be the shape pick over the last couple of years, and everybody's saying they're ready to make that big jump and that big run.
Well, they look so good in spring training, and they hit so well, and a lot of the hitters that were hot in March are simply not delivering here in May and June, or at least April and May. 2-1
to count. Great location on that fastball, just like the one you drew up a moment ago.
I don't think that the Royals have been to the postseason since the days of George Brett.
You would be correct.
It's a long wait.
Bailey trying to put it on ice here in the 6th inning. Left that one out over the plate a little bit. Crawford fouls it on a play. Still 2-2. Crawford got hit on the hand early last season, specifically on the finger, and had to play through the back half of the year basically swinging the bat without his index finger on the bat. So he'd take his 3 other fingers, wrap it around the bat along with a thumb, and after doing that for a while, the overcompensation forced an injury on his middle finger, but he never came out of lineup. But he barely hit over 200 over the second half of the year. Pretty good battle right here between Crawford and Bailey. But boy, they love his defense.
He's a great defender. There's no doubt about it. But right now, Homer Bailey's got him where he wants him, which is late on the fastball.
And it comes back with a slider down and in to put him away. 7 strikeouts in the game for Homer. Middle of the 6th. Reds in front 8-3. Leading 8-3, and the impact of Billy Hamilton's speed, Chris, we saw it from the very first inning.
It just makes you nervous if you're on defense, and it makes you do things that you don't normally do, like throw the ball away, thinking just because he runs fast, you've got to throw the ball fast. He hits one up the middle. Brandon Crawford fields it, but he knows he has to be perfect to get Hamilton. He can't do it. The catcher's throwing from his knees, desperately throwing it into center field. Not once, but twice. Hector Sanchez has done it, and Billy Hamilton has been all over this ballpark and right in the middle of a bunch of scoring.
All right, so Billy in the ball game tonight, a double, a stolen base, scored on the air, tried to bunt his way on, and was thrown out by the catcher, and then a single to center field, And this time he lifts it in the air to right, batting as a right-handed batter for the first time. One out in the inning. You know, I want to have one final birthday wish, and she'll shoot me if I mention her age, but my mother-in-law, Martha Rassi, celebrating a birthday today, and I hope she's had a great day. Her daughter took her out for lunch today.
Well, we certainly do. Now, she's a bad shot, though, so maybe, you know, take a chance.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get along great with my mother, so I don't want all of a sudden go on the other side of that.
Just trying to bait you there, partner. I'm glad you didn't fall for it.
I would definitely not fall for that.
I mean, if she doesn't want to admit that she's 29 years old again,
yeah,
then she won't admit it.
Exactly that. And I didn't want to, you know, put her in with that crowd turning 90 plus. I mean, they deserve their own sort of plaque. But happy birthday, Martha. Hope you've had a great day and a great night. Hopefully Luke didn't make you crazy tonight while Mom was off with Ella at soccer. Todd Frazier, a pair of walks, 0 for 1, has scored a couple of runs and now has a base hit as he hooks one into left center field.
Well, he's hit the ball solid every time he's put the ball in play, which is only 2. You just saw one of them, a line drive at the second baseman, was an out in the 3rd inning. But he's taken a couple of walks, and you know, that's a difference in the approach that we've seen this year from Todd Frazier. Now, some of that might be maturity, just being around the league a little bit longer, but some of it might also be the work that he's been doing with Don Long, the hitting coach, down in the batting cages underneath the stadium. I've been working a lot on not chasing the pitches away from him, and when he gets a pitch for a strike, he hits it pretty well.
Short hop by Sandoval. Pretty slick double play right there by a Giant defense which has committed 4 errors. But Sandoval to Arias on to Posey, and that's all for the Reds in the 6th. Reds lead it, however, 8-3. We're off to the 7th inning. Brought to you by Chevy. Visit your Tri-State Chevy dealer today. And by Cincinnati Children's Hospital, ranked #1 in the U.S. in pediatric cancer care. According to U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospitals in America. Well, the night is over for Homer Bailey. 6 innings, gives up 3 runs. He really settled down after a shaky start.
Well, he really did, and a good solid outing for Homer Bailey. Again, another quality start. That makes 7 of them now and 12 attempts for Homer. He had 7 punch-outs, only walked 1 batter, and the walk came around to score. The hit batter that he had came around to score. Other than that, he really pitched a good ball game against a team that has been swinging the bat extremely well. And J.J. Hoover will take over. Hoover, 22nd time, and don't be misled by that earned run average. He's been getting the job done much better as of late.
All right, he'll be facing 8, 9, and 1 in the Giants batting orders. So we'll start with Arias and then a pinch hitter. Right now, standing in the on-deck circle is a left-handed batter, Gregor Blanco. He would hit for Huff, who goes a final inning in 2/3. Allows 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, no runs. And that one lifted into short right center. Hamilton calls off Jay Bruce, and that's out number 1 for J.J. Hoover. Well, you can win your way to NASCAR's Quaker State 400 at the Kentucky Motor Speedway Getaway Sweepstakes. On board the Fan Express. Today's keyword race. Enter it on the entry page at foxsportsohio.com to enter. And then stay tuned every day for a new keyword and a new chance to win. Well, the hottest team, the best team in the National League, the San Francisco Giants, through the first 2 months of this season. Getting kicked around by the Reds so far here tonight. And that is something the Reds have done to these Giants for whatever reason. In the regular season of late, Reds have won 6 of the last 7 games last year. That was overall. They've won 8 of 10 against the Giants going back to 2012, and they have won 10 of the last regular season games against the Giants. But boy, oh boy, when they trade any, if not all, of those wins against the Giants for just 1 win in the division series of 2012. The Reds had not lost more than 2 games in a row the entire year at home that year. They had not lost 3 in a row all year long. And the Giants came in here and did what no team had done to the Reds during that 97-win season, as that's out number 2. And even now, but you know, the Giants were asked about coming into Cincinnati, and they say, hey, look, we look at this as being one of our biggest series now of the year, every year, coming into Cincinnati, because that is a moment in time in 3 days which the franchise will never forget.
Well, it propelled them on. I mean, not just because they won, obviously that is part of it, but the way they won in such a dramatic 3-game fashion where everybody had counted them out. I mean, they kept winning games all that postseason that they really shouldn't have won, and they realized that. And they really believe that they did that mostly with energy, with believing in themselves. When you get to the postseason, you can't discount any of that, because everybody's got talent.
Oh, and 1 on Angel Pagan, who's 0 for 2, has walked and scored a run. And it's a ball and a strike on Pagan. We were talking about Pagan earlier. I mean, if you're the Cubs or if you're the New York Mets, are you not kicking yourself for giving this guy a little bit more of a chance? I mean, he has put together 3 good years since leaving the Mets. He initially came up in the Mets organization. They got rid of him to the Cubs for money. And then the Cubs traded him back to the Mets for a couple of guys you never heard of. And then the Giants traded away Andres Torres, who had been a good player for them when they won it all in 2010, to get Pagan. 2-2 the count. Break-even pitch. Oh boy, over in the entire infield. Made a step or two towards the first base side dugout. Man, that's right there. 3-2. In the air, center field, Hamilton there, and that's it. 1-2-3 for JJ. They stand and stretch, and the Reds have a 5-run lead.
Honda game summary was early in the first inning when Hunter Pence went deep off of a high fastball from Homer Bailey to put the Giants on the board early. With them winning 1-0, says Devin Mesoraco as he unjams Tim Lincecum for a bomb that makes the score a 4-1 game. And this double by Brandon Phillips down the left field line makes it 7-3 Reds. We are now at 8-3, and that is our Honda game summary.
Well, what a big hit that was by Brandon after the Giants had closed to within a run. So we have seen Lincecum, we have seen Huff. We'll tell you about the new pitcher here in a moment. We know Blanco will stay in the game to play center field, part of a double switch, and batting in the leadoff spot, and now on the mound, George Contos. We have seen Contos a number of times through the years. Appearing in just his 6th game this season He was called up for the first time on May the 6th, appeared in one game, then he sent him back down 4 days later. Was having a good year for their AAA team.
Well, he was a mainstay in this bullpen last year and really the year before. He had 52 games last year. Contos did good overall body of work that he did. 47 strikeouts and 55 innings. He's a guy that you characterize him as a slider machine, although we understand some scouts have told us he's using his fastball just a little bit more this year.
One and 0 to Jay Bruce. Been a good night for Jay. 2 hits in 3 at bats. Has scored twice, stolen a base, and his first 2 runs batted in since coming off the disabled list. Well, we have seen Jay Bruce when he gets on those Jay Bruce runs and rolls. Look out in the National League. Line drive to center there to begin the 7th inning. Well, Mesoraco provided us with a Nissan drive of the game, capping off a 4-run opening inning. His 9th home run, and now 27 runs batted in for this emerging force behind the plate for the Reds, young Devin Mesoraco. Heard the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy telling a story earlier today about Mesoraco, his first year in professional baseball after the Reds had drafted him #1 in the story, as told by former Reds pitcher Doug Baer. Baer was on a staff at Dayton, and after a game out of the bullpen, Mesoraco was brought to tears. He was playing so poorly. And Doug Baer asked him, what was wrong? He said, I just don't know if I can do it in professional baseball. And Baer asked him, well, how old are you, young man? He said, 18. He said, well, I don't think you're going anywhere. Let's stay with this for a little while and see what happens. And it took him a little while to get going.
It did, but all that while, I mean, if you talk to people who are in the Reds organization, evaluators, managers in the minor leagues and so on, they said they've never met a kid who took it more seriously than he did. Even when he wasn't playing, he was out as a spectator watching games, trying to learn, and they figured eventually it would all come together for him. It's not easy drafting a catcher, #1 out of high school.
That ball is in the air, deep center field, but not deep enough. Boy, it looked better, sounded better.
Did sound pretty good.
Man, probably Mesoraco makes contact like that, it'll travel a long way, but it's out #2.
So it takes a while. I mean, it's almost like, I don't know how you would compare maybe to an NFL quarterback. I mean, the guy sits in with a clipboard and a baseball cap on for the first few years until they finally let him have a few snaps. And you even add more years to that when you are a high school player. I mean, it's one thing coming out of a big-time college program where you're playing in super regionals and playing against the best teams in the country, and you're playing against other 22 and 23-year-olds, maybe more redshirted. And when you're 18 years old, you're still playing against 22 and 23-year-olds who are coming out of college programs. It takes a while to catch up, but I think that they were always believers in Devin Mesoraco.
Straight up in the air by Pena. And it's a 1-2-3 inning for Contos. Giants will bat in the 8th. Reds are in front 8-3. great offer just for you. $10 tickets for the entire series against the Phillies. That's this weekend. That's a Friday night game, a 4:10 game on Saturday, 1:10 on Sunday. Go to Reds.com/FSOhio and use the code 14FSOH. 14FSOH to get your $10 tickets right now. Well, J.J. Hoover on for a second inning of work. Reds lead 8-3. Giants bat here in the 8th inning. It has been a perfect night outside of the scoreboard for Hunter Pence. A home run to left, a double to left, and a single to center. And now a liner right at Todd Frazier.
Well, he's hit the ball hard tonight, Pence has, and Frazier's done that a few times too, right into the gloves of an infielder. You got to pitch this guy down and away. There's just no two ways about it. And not that that's a place that you can sit down there and stay, but the only bad swings we've seen him have, Pence that is, all night long have been on the black on the knees.
Two and one to Buster Posey. And a good breaking ball there by J.J. Posey has struck out, popped up to Brandon Phillips, and then singled into center field in the 5th inning. Reds are now 5 outs away from drawing to within 2 games of 500. Of course, after they lost the first 2 games in Arizona, in Los Angeles rather, they slipped to 6 games under 500. And then again after they lost the opening game in Arizona, and won 3 in a row to get within 3 of the break-even mark, and now a 5-run lead here in the 8th inning tonight. Joey Votto with a ball club in uniform was out doing calisthenics and running around with a team before the game.
He's got to feel good just being back with the ball club.
And apparently, unlike the Jay Bruce situation, Votto is going to go on some kind of a rehab assignment.
Yeah, he did allude to that. We're not sure when that's going to be or how long that will be.
Well, I'm sure Jim Day had a chance to perhaps gather a little bit of information from a time, maybe just a little while before the game got started. Jim down there next to the Reds dugout. Jim Day, anything you could add in regard to Joey Votto? Because I know he talked to the press for the first time today.
He did talk to the press and said that he feels great. And he was set to do everything on the field with the team for the first time. He has yet to take ground balls or run the bases. He was going to do that today, but unfortunately rain came through here. They put the tarp on and the Reds had to hit underneath. But he said said he's going to take the next couple of days to work out with the team and just make sure that the strength is the biggest portion right now in that leg. Most of the soreness and pain is out of there. They're working to strengthen the leg. So it's going to be a couple more days before they reassess and then figure out where he wants to go. He did say that probably one rehab game in the minors would not be enough. So expect more than one once he does go out.
Well, you know, you start adding all that up together, and there was speculation the Reds, Jim, might have Votto back for Friday night. But based on what you just said, you know, unless something changes, and everything is subject to change, that would be a real surprise if we saw him for the Philadelphia series. So, you know, the next thing that then comes to mind is if you reassess, if you will, the next 2 days, and after that you're ready to go down and play maybe 2 or 3 games over the weekend somewhere, well then maybe, and it's a big maybe you see Joey Votto in the Dodgers series, because the next series after the Dodgers series is when the Reds go to Milwaukee. Broken bat by Sandoval. 2-2 to count on him. Well, you know, Chris, you've been around baseball a long time, and you know we've discussed this whole rehab thing, to rehab, to not rehab, and you know you can circle around that thing from now until next Tuesday. But you know, Chris, you think about a position player. How different are they than a pitcher? Now, obviously, they're so different because it's once every 5 days. But say even a reliever, how many games would they normally like to get in?
You got to build up arm strength, and that's probably the easiest thing to quantify when you're a pitcher on rehab, whether you're a reliever or a starter. If you're a reliever, they say, well, you've got to be able to pitch back-to-back games. And if you're a starter, we need to get you up to 100 pitches because we're not going to bring you back and have you throw 70 pitches and blow up our bullpen. But for a hitter, it's a little bit different. I mean, a hitter is trying to find, you know, his groove. He's trying to hit some live pitching. It's one thing, you know, standing out here and hitting off a coach who's throwing, you know, 60 miles an hour straight right down the middle, as opposed to going even down even to A ball or double A, just getting some live at bats. I remember a few years ago in spring training, Joey Votto, I guess, got off to a slow start. Maybe he was injured, and he batted 8 or 9 times in one game by always being a leadoff man, but one field to the next.
That was prior to last year when he was coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
2 good innings by Hoover.
What we hope will be a Reds victory. It's Reds Live post-game. You have the most extended highlights on the planet here from the manager before anyone else. Stick around. Reds Live post-game brought to you by King's Honda coming up. And a big old congratulations going out to Hal McCoy of FoxSportsOhio.com. Hal McCoy, of course, is in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, but he just found out he's going in yet another Hall of Fame. This, the Irish American Sports Hall of Fame. He's going in with David Cohn. So another honor for our very own Hal McCoy. His 4th Hall of Fame, he tells me, and indeed, you can call him the Hall of Famer.
How about that? So, Jim, if you go to the Hall of Fame and all these different kinds of Hall of Fame, you say to yourself, well, what kind of a guy would Hal McCoy be?
He's a vintage guy.
Conto still on the mound for the Giants, and it'll be Skip Schumaker, Zach Cozart, and then the pitcher spot J.J. Hoover will, I'm sure, very much enjoy as Arias moves over to first base, and Adrianza takes over at second. But J.J. Hoover, 2 perfect innings tonight. So good for him. And barring just a complete meltdown, this will be really the second big game in a row that Homer Bailey will pick up a win. Well, we talked about the importance of that last win that Homer Bailey had, and the Reds had lost the first 2 games of that series to the Dodgers after they had lost the prior 2 games to lose that series to the Cardinals. And then Bailey goes into the game locked up against the reigning Cy Young Award winner and Clayton Kershaw. Brandon Phillips hit the 2-run home run in the first inning, and Bailey outpitched Clayton Kershaw 7 innings, 2 runs. Reds won that game. And now tonight you come back home, you're playing the hottest team in all of Major League Baseball, best record in Major League Baseball, and you start off on somewhat shaky ground. Well, you hit a batter, he scores. They score in the first inning on a home run. You walk the leadoff man in the 3rd, he scores. But after that, shutdown time for Homer Bailey.
Well, I think that, and if you look at the big picture of it, the Reds are trying to extend their streak to 4 games in a row. That's the most they've won all year long. It's the first game of a series, which a lot of managers will tell you that's the most important game of all, because if you win that game, you guarantee that you're not going to get swept. Of course, the Reds have much bigger hopes in this series than that. But, good solid performance by Homer Bailey against a team that he has dominated. And you got to figure that this matchup really, even before the game, looked good for the Reds, because the Cincinnati Reds are the only team in baseball that Tim Lincecum has not won a game against.
Another reason you and I were talking about how important this game was tonight. Now, we don't know what Mother Nature has in store. We saw when San Diego was here, because it's their only trip in, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to make sure you get all 3 games in right here and right now. But you hear some of the forecasts, maybe a chance tomorrow, maybe not when all's said and done. Let's hope not. But if for some reason you're forced to play a doubleheader on the final day, you win this first game. Doubleheaders are very hard to sweep. You lose this first game, and because doubleheaders are hard to sweep, you might end up losing the series. There's a bouncer down to 3rd and 2 around the inning.
Tell you what, Sandoval's made some nice plays down there. I mean, he does not get very much credit for being a good 3rd baseman, because you look at him and he's slimmer now than he's been in a long time. But there was a time there he was a tub. But he's always had very good hands. He's got a nice arm. He moves very smoothly for a big guy. 6 errors on the year. He's made a couple of really nice plays, including a start of a double play ball and a ground ball hit by Brandon Phillips.
Donald Ludd's going to come up and bat for J.J. Hoover here in the 8th inning. Hoover 2 innings, no hits, 1 strikeout, no walks, no runs. Minnesota extends its lead 6-2 over Milwaukee. That game in the top of the 5th inning. That's Giovanni Gallardo, who would be in danger of slipping to 3-4 on the year. Cardinals still lead in Kansas City, but the Royals knocking on the door in the top of the 8th inning with 2 on and 2 out. 7-6 Redbirds in that one. Here it's 8-3 Reds, batting in the bottom of the 8th inning with 2 out and nobody on for Donald Lutz. And a count of 2-2. Lutz draws a 2-out walk to keep the inning alive for Billy Hamilton. Been a good night for Billy Hamilton. A double, a stolen base, a run scored. Was thrown out trying to bunt in the 2nd inning. Singled, stole a base, scored again in the 5th, and then flied out to right his last time up. Started 2 and stays off the high fastball. Ball 1 to Billy Hamilton.
You know, Tom, with the draft coming up, the amateur draft, baseball MLB version of the amateur draft coming up on Thursday. It is worth mentioning that Billy Hamilton was picked 2nd in 2009. That 2009 draft, we've always talked about 2005 and all the players that the Reds got. That 2009 draft, you start looking at it again. Mike Leake taken first, Brad Boxberger traded off to San Diego, then Billy Hamilton in the 2nd round. Johnny Joseph and Tucker Barnhart, Nick Christiani. A lot of those guys have had something to do with this major league club this year. The Reds will be packing their war room with all the brains of the front office trying to figure out who they're going to draft and what they're looking for.
And I saw where Eric Davis has agreed to represent the organization and actually make the first 2 selections up on the podium. And that draft, as Chris mentioned, gets underway Thursday. 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 3-1 to Billy Hamilton. 3 balls and a strike. Runner at first, 2 men out. Challenge with a fastball, and Hamilton fouls it away.
I'm talking about that draft in 2009. Here's what the Reds got, and they're key members. You're right about that. Leake and Billy Hamilton, Tucker Barnhart, Nick Christiani have all been on this active major league roster this year.
To the count on Billy Hamilton. Runner gets started. Lutz, and he'll make the U-turn and come on back.
That 2009 draft, we're talking about Billy Hamilton earlier. Mike Trout was taken in the first round, picked 25th in that draft by the Angels.
3-2 now on Billy Hamilton again, and again he'll waste it.
We just saw A.J. Pollock, center fielder in Arizona. He also was taken in that draft. Came out of Notre Dame.
Good looking young player.
That was the draft really headlined, of course, at the very top by Steven Strasburg.
Two on Billy Hamilton. Third time, and a third time he fouls it off.
This is being kind to fans for Billy Hamilton. He hit nice, easy foul balls, you know, not rocket shots into the stands, just balls that are kind of looping in there. They can make a play on him. Young man just made a play wearing a Brandon Phillips jersey, brought his glove to the game, and snagged it for a souvenir.
Well, if you're going to wear a Brandon Phillips jersey, you better bring a glove along. Fourth time now on a 3-2 count. Contos v. Hamilton. And for a fourth time, another souvenir. This will be the 10th pitch in this at bat. All the pitches away from him. Pitch number 10 is on the way, and here it is. Strike 3 called, and that'll end the inning. A man left. Giants come to bat. Top of the ninth. Reds 3 outs away from a series opening win over the Giants. of the game.
Can't wait.
August the 17th, 1986, the crafty left-hander. He got John Kruk. He got Bruce Bochy once and twice.
Well, that's an embarrassing moment for Bruce Bochy.
How about the left-hander?
I shaved my mustache to become a member of the Cincinnati Reds that year. Back in those days, no facial hair. Well, Boch was actually a catcher that we played together when I was in San Diego. I've known Bruce Bochy for a long, long time, as I've known the third base coach, Tim Flannery, who was my first ever roommate in the major leagues when I was with San Diego. That's back in the days when guys had roommates.
That was a good one to have, I would imagine.
Flan and I were tight. Back so tight that moved the clock years later. We had Flan perform the marriage ceremony that I had a couple of years ago out in Hollister Ranch in California. So I know we're at least legally married in California.
First pitch swinging against Logan Ondrusek is Michael Morse, and he finishes his night with 4 ground ball outs. Second, 2 to short, 1 to third. Logan Ondrusek trying to get the final 3 outs. There's Flannery.
The Flan man.
Grew up down in Kentucky.
Yes, he did. Still has a lot of friends and kinfolk down there. I got to get you down to his Uncle Max's Loudon Square Buffet.
Man, count me in.
Man, that's a family restaurant. It's delicious. Good man. Right
yes,
there,
indeed. Well, he is a we kid around a lot with Jim Day talking about a baseball guy. Well, Tim Flannery is that. Player and basically a coach immediately thereafter. All those years in San Diego where he's so enormously popular as a player there and a coach. And then when Bruce Bochy made the move, he brought Flannery along with him.
Of course, he's an accomplished musician. He's performed with the Grateful Dead. In fact, he sang the national anthem with the 2 remaining members of the Grateful Dead in San Francisco a couple of times now.
Slow roller down to first. And Pena will handle it. And the Giants are down to their final out of the night. That's a good way to start a homestand. Hottest team in the league, team with the second best road, tied for the first best road record in the National League, along with a team chasing them, the Los Angeles Dodgers, both of them at 18 and 11. Giants coming off a series where they beat the Cardinals 3 out of 4 at Busch Stadium. And the Reds trying to finish them off right here and right now with 2 away in the ninth. We know the Brewers are losing. That game is only in the 6th inning, so a way to go there, but they're down by 4. On the ground to Pena, and he will handle it himself, and the Reds take care of the Giants in the opening game of this 3-game series. 8-3. Bailey the winner, now 6-3. And Tim Lincecum 4-4 and still without a single win in his major league career against the Cincinnati Reds
during the regular season. But it was an all Reds game tonight. Really the tone of this ball game set by Billy Hamilton and Homer Bailey. Those 2 guys getting it done. 6-3, 8-3 overall. More to come after this.